From the Great Rocky Mountains with photographers from all over the world, you are listening to the Rocky Mountain Photography Show. I'm your host, Jeff Futter, and thank you for listening. This is episode 11. I've got Alexis Wasinger and Matt Harris with us. We're going to talk a little bit about marketing and selling photography. Matt is just learning photography, and he's kind of here more to observe and listen and ask some questions if he has any. But Alexis and I are going to chat a little bit. So, Alexis, what do you usually do to approach a new client and get them to buy your photography or buy your services for photography?
Well, as of right now, I've been doing a couple things. I've been watching a couple videos of people who have had successful photography businesses and how they promote their stuff. Personally, what works for me as of right now, just anybody who has done ISOs in search of photographers, um, is mainly my main source right now. But I've also done a few like little mini pop-up sessions, and I just create an ad or a poster for them and start. I have so many spots available, and people will actually message me personally and just ask to save a spot. And then from there, usually I see them at the location where I have my little pop-up stand and just talk to them one-on-one to get them comfortable with me. And then after that, we'll start the session. And usually that helps me build clientele, new names, new faces. And they usually would come back after they see the photos and how comfortable they were. And I've always got compliments saying I was a really great photographer. I worked with them really well. I made them feel comfortable. It wasn't awkward. And just from that alone builds up rapport. And from there, usually it's word of mouth from people just recommending me as a photographer.
Now, one thing I have to point out is you and I are completely different as far as the types of photography that we do, because you do mostly portraits and weddings and things like that.
Yes, correct.
And I do mostly landscapes, nature photos, sunsets, waterfalls, things like that. And to sell photography, it's good, completely different depending on what kind of photography you're selling. So you need to know who your client is. Get to know them as much as possible and focus on connecting with that client whatever way you can. But it's important to know what kind of and what style of photography you want to sell before you try to market it.
Yes, that is very, very true. Know your audience. My biggest thing is kind of talk to them like they're your best friend. And that usually gets people really comfortable to talk to you and open up a little bit, get to know them a little bit more on a personal level, because just knowing like how's your dog doing, how are your kids doing, that just builds that rapport that much more, and they just naturally want to trust you that much quicker. And just knowing those little details about that person is just you stick in their mind and you stand out from the rest of them, because you're not just talking to them as just a customer or a potential long-term client. You're talking to them and building rapport just so that they remember your face and your name.
Yeah, and every business is different, so you can't really just emulate exactly what somebody else did. Instead, you should probably just use that more as a template, and then build your own plan to go forward. I'm dabbling in portrait photography. I'm learning portrait photography, and I want to do more portraits for people, but I've had a hard time getting clients. And the same with weddings. I do weddings, and I want to get more weddings out there. I want to get my name out there. So as what I have done is I've joined the local farmers market here in Riverton. And on the 18th, I'm doing a free portrait day. I've got a blackout tent that I can, a tent that has black walls all the way around it, so I can put my backdrops in there and lighting gear and stuff. And um, pretty much what I'm going to do is email them a link where they can download their pictures. And what I'm hoping for out of that, I'm not hoping to make any money that day, but I hope that some of those people will come back to me. And I hope that hopefully if they have a wedding, if they need senior pictures later on, if they need anything else, then they will come back to me. And just getting my name out there is the goal there.
Is it when you're doing things like portraits or even nature photography, is it worth it to go the extra step to actually make the prints and sell the prints too, or do you just sell the digital copy?
With my nature photography, I sell the prints. I have it's actually a Canon Pro 100, wide format printer that I'll print them out at 13 by 19 and then get them get custom frames for them and sell them at the farmers market. And I've had really good luck doing that. I have not had good luck selling online or trying to sell people the digital copies because they don't see the value in it like they would the actual physical print.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, it just seems like it would be when you have a tangible thing that might be an easier sell. That was just I just wanted to see what you guys were thinking about that.
Yeah, and for me, it's one of those things that when I do somebody's photos for them, whether it be family, seniors, weddings, I always send them the digital copy first to their online gallery. And then from there, I do offer my print services as a separate price just because it does involve having to take more money to print them out. But depending on what package deal that they are wanting, I do offer like my highest paying package. I do throw in a couple of complimentary prints just because they're paying that much more. But other than that, if they just wanted one of my cheap, more affordable package deals, then I also offer my services for prints as a separate option if they so choose.
Okay.
And another thing I would say about with clients, like for my free portrait day coming up, each and every client that I have there, I'm going to ask them if they would to go to Google, go to my profile, my business profile, and submit a review. I think that's really important for people looking for you as a photographer. If they see you have 5-star reviews and a whole bunch of them, then they're a lot more likely to hire you than somebody with no reviews.
I
Yeah.
would say that was one big thing for me that when I was my most recent wedding that I went and photographed, luckily out of like 100 people, she posted this comment anonymous. She picked me just out of the gut instinct that I was the photographer to fill in for the photographer that backed out for her sister's wedding. And I was asking her because I always like to get reviews from my client. I'm like, well, what about me stood out to you? Because I message a lot of people on people in search of a photographer. I always show them my work. I introduce myself and I instantly give them my prices and how my payment methods work and what I require. That way, I'm doing most of the legwork. But I asked her, when I was having this conversation with this gal that hired me, she said that the main thing is that I first off was advertising for myself. I was introducing myself. I know some Facebook pages are kind of iffy about you posting prices, but just me being really authentic and really speaking for myself really stood out to her. And then I asked her, I'm like, well, where are some corrections that I can make to help my page that much more? Yes, I want this photographer. It came from, she's like, please get people to write reviews about you, about working with you, their experience with you, everything. She's like, we need to know what other people have experienced. Because yes, you can post all these beautiful pictures of people, but how are you to work with? And that alone, I mean, just even the 3 reviews that I got from the bride herself, the gal that hired me, and then some previous other clients that have reached out saying, hey, would you please leave a review for me if you really enjoyed working with me? And just like that, I started getting so many requests for me as a photographer with just on those 5 reviews because my page kept getting recommended to other people that now I'm fully booked for August and I'm now starting to fill up for September as well.
Nice. That's always good to have your schedule full when you're trying to run a business. Another thing I would say, and I don't know how much this really applies to you because you, like I said, most of your pictures are portraits or weddings or things like of that nature. But take your work into galleries and ask them for representation. I think that you'd be surprised how many galleries would accept your work. Um, Actually, back in, I'm going to say 2015 or 16, I had a gallery reach out to me asking me if I would sell them some prints. And that's what kind of really got me started with wanting to become more serious about photography is the gallery actually wanted my work. And since then, I've gone to other galleries and brought my work into them, and they said, "Yeah, we'll sell that for you." So don't be afraid to take your work into galleries. Don't feel like you're not good enough because chances are you are.
And when you were looking at different galleries, did you actually bring your own, like had prints printed out for the galleries already, or were you just showing them your work off of your Facebook page?
No, I actually had them printed up, and the first gallery that contacted me, they actually saw my work on Wyoming Through the Lens, a Facebook group, and they direct messaged me on Facebook and got my information that way. After that, I would actually print my work out, frame it, and then take it into the gallery because, like I said, having something tangible is something that makes things sell. That sometimes a picture just won't do. A lot of times you might see something on Amazon and think, I don't want that, and then go into Walmart and see the exact same thing and pick it up and, oh, yeah, I do want this. And it's the same thing for photography. If you have something tangible, then chances are it will sell.
So here's a question related to that. Jeff, you said you have your own high-end printer. Are there resources sort of for people who don't have a high-end printer of their own? I mean, can you just go to a regular print shop and like I don't even know if they have those anymore. Maybe I'm showing my age a little bit, but can you go to like like Kinko's obviously, but something like that? Is that something that's available out there?
There's a lot of different online printers out there, and I've used them to print pictures bigger than what I'm capable of printing. Color Ink, I think colorinc.com is one of them that I've used. And the cool thing about them is they will actually inspect it before it's shipped out, and then they will drop ship to a customer so that you don't have to actually do anything with it. There's Bay Photo, there's Nations Photo Lab, there's I mean the list goes on and on with different ones, and they're usually pretty good as far as pricing goes. I've had stuff printed on canvas at easycanvasprints.com. And again, they give the option to not include any kind of their branding on the canvas or any kind of pricing so that you can ship directly to the customer. So yeah, there are quite a few resources out there, but I think the best luck I've had was with colorinc.com. Let me just double check that real quick and make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, I guess they changed it. Colorincprolab.com. So COLORINCPROLAB.com. And they do a really, really good job.
Okay. And of course, you could just order them in reference to like going to a gallery or even setting up your own display at a farmer's market or an artist market or something like that. You could just order them, have them shipped to you, and you'd have those on hand, and then you could just sell them in that venue too. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people who sell their prints at farmers markets, things like that, in different venues like that, will actually not sell the prints that they have just because they don't want the customers to buy, scratched up glass and dings all over in the frame and stuff like that, which will happen when you carry those around. But instead, they'll have them fill out a form or an order form where they will pay for it, and then they'll get it printed and then framed and then ship it to them pretty much in perfect condition instead of being all beat up.
Yeah.
And for when you have these prints, do you frame them yourself, or where do you buy your actual framing for your pictures, or do you just have like a special glass that you put them in, and then it's up to the whoever's purchasing them to frame them themselves?
I frame them myself now. I used to have Wind River Gallery in Riverton frame them for me, and they did a really good job. But the problem was that I end up losing money because it cost so much just to get it framed that I couldn't make any kind of profit off of it. Now, to be completely honest, I just buy my frames on Amazon usually and frame them that way. There are several pretty good frame companies like Art to Frames on Amazon and Craig Frames. Craig Frames is another one that you can look at, and you can usually get pretty good deals on them.
So, I mean, if you really wanted to sort of cut the overhead, I'm sure you could, like you said, order them on Amazon or even, most of your arts and crafts stores have whole sections of a variety of frames. I would just be finding ones that, fit the size of prints you can or get or have. So you could potentially save a lot of overhead that way. Just going to say a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby.
Yep, absolutely. There's no reason you couldn't do it that way either. The problem with that here, as Alexis can attest to, is we really don't have any kind of Hobby Lobby or anything around Fremont County that we can just run to. We'd have to run as far as Natrona County to Casper to go to any kind of place like that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and
So,
especially being out here in Jeffrey City. I mean, like the nearest town to me is like an hour each direction. So
Uh,
either way,
yeah.
that's a long truck for me to make it to town.
But I live in Denver, and so that would be that if you're a city dweller, a big city dweller, that would be an option for you.
yep, absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
And one thing I would also like to say is don't try to do too much when you're trying to market. Don't try to overdo it because number
Don't make
one,
it
you're
sound
going to
like
get
you're desperate.
Yeah,
you sound desperate and you're also going to get burnt out and the quality of everything you do isn't going to be as good as just doing a few things. As long as you keep that quality up, that's what you really want to focus on when you're trying to market, not quantity, but quality.
true. Yeah, and for me being, I've been an amateur for a while. I just really invested some money in a good rig, but I'm still figuring out a lot of the what are probably basics of having. I'm kind of going from sort of snapshots with your phone to actual professional grade photography. I'm still figuring a lot of that part out. I'm still having a lot of fun just taking pictures of stuff. And so I've decided that I want to try to maybe make a go of this. And so, but it's actually, absolutely very important to not get burned out on a hobby too.
And when you're investing in gear, one thing I would say, don't worry too much about the camera body. I mean, you can buy a cheap $500-$600 camera body, and literally it's going to have the same sensor as a $3,000 camera body, for the most part. It may be APS-C compared to full frame or compared to medium format, but it's for the most part going to be about the same thing. What you really want to focus on is your lenses. Get good quality glass, and you'll really see the difference with that more than you'll see the difference with the actual camera bodies.
Well, that's good to know because I didn't have a ton of money to put into this. And so I ended up getting a Rebel T7, which is good reviews. It's a very well reviewed camera, but it is a lower end one. But I don't know. I'm very pleased with the pictures I take, but I'm not a very good judge of quality either, I don't think.
The T7 is a really good camera. It's very capable. I have a Panasonic Lumix S1R, which is a bit of a higher end camera body. And the reason I have that is not because of the quality of the picture that it can make, because your camera can make as good a quality of picture as mine can. It's capable of it. The difference is usually with higher end gear is number one, it's more rugged, splash proof, water resistant. If you're going out in a thunderstorm and setting it up on a tripod and a huge rainstorm comes up all of a sudden, it's probably going to be okay, whereas yours might not. And also, the more expensive, more high-end cameras are more ergonomic. So there's a lot more buttons that you can customize to do exactly what you want to do. So as you learn how everything works in your camera, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to want to set up manually. And by having all these different buttons and stuff and dials that you don't have on the Canon T7, it just makes it that much faster and easier. And that's why I have my more expensive camera gear than a cheaper camera like yours.
And definitely looking at an upgrade with the T7 eventually being the backup camera. When I've been looking at sort of contract photography positions, they all want you to have backup camera with you in case your main camera goes out, which makes sense. Something like an Sony A11, I think is what it is, or something like that would be the next upgrade with my Rebel T7 being then the backup camera just in case that one goes down.
Well, when I started with the Canon Rebel T5, so that's been my good hardy camera, and that was secondhand too, so I only bought it for like $200, slightly used, and then
I
now I'm
paid
upgraded to the EOS 70D, and now that's my like main shooter now, and it has all the nicer lenses. And I also bought that one secondhand, and it takes really good pictures as well.
I actually just sold a secondhand Canon 70D here probably 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, I like with that T7. I got the T7. I got an 18 by 55, and I got a 75 by 300. And I think out the door, I paid a grand total of I think 450 from this little camera shop in Houston, Texas, where I'm from. I'm in Denver now, but and then they've got a great camera shop here in Denver too, called Mike's Camera. So it's good to know from people who are more professional that even if you don't have a ton of money to put into it to get started, that you can still. And I'm very pleased with the pictures I take. So it's nice to know that the camera bodies that are a little more accessible can still give you great photos.
Yes, absolutely. You don't need to spend a whole lot of money on your camera gear to make great photos. That is 100% true. And if you do want something to upgrade if you do want to upgrade to better gear, don't focus on the camera body. Like Alexis said, she's using the Canon 70D, which I think came out around 2016 or 15 or something like that. And it went on through production through, I think, like 2020, somewhere around there. But it's completely capable of really, really good pictures, especially if you have better lenses. The lenses are what you really want to invest in, not the bodies themselves.
Okay. Now, how do you guys feel about external flashes? I know they're very important for portrait photography, but that's about the only use they have, right? If you're doing something like portraits or boudoir photography or something like that, that's the only thing you really need an external flash for, right?
Well, using some fill flash outside sometimes is not a bad idea in landscapes. Just it depends on the situation. Rarely do I use one, but yes, it is actually useful for other things. Sometimes astrophotography. If you want to get the flowers in the foreground and the sky in the background, just hit it with a little bit of flash. Usually you don't even put it in that case. You'd be taking a 30-second exposure. You wouldn't even bother putting it on the camera. Just hit the button on the back of the flash. But yeah, I do use them a little bit, and like you said, they are really great for portrait photography, especially Canon. Canon has I don't know the model number, but I like to use a bounce flash. And the irritating thing about a bounce flash is when you go from portrait orientation to landscape orientation to portrait orientation to landscape orientation, you're having to move your flash head around constantly. Canon has one that will actually has a motor in it that will move itself as you move the camera. So if you're looking to do like portraits or something and have it on the camera, I'd recommend that. Otherwise, you can also get a flash trigger and receiver, which aren't very expensive. You can probably pick one up for $20-$30. That's a pretty decent one with, usually like two receivers and a trigger. And get your flash off your camera and put it in different places to really get that lighting good. Getting it off your camera is important because the direction that it shoots at while it's on the camera just leaves this really, really weird shadow in the background a lot of times that you just don't want. So get another tripod, put your flash on it, and get one of those triggers. And I think you'd be amazed by the results of that. What is your opinion on that, Alexis?
Yeah, I would say depending on your lighting, it comes down to a lot of that for me. Uh, just sometimes when I'm out taking portrait photography, it could just be as simple as the sun's just overpowering whatever you're taking a photo of, and just a little bit of flash will kind of brighten up whatever your subject is doing or where you're at. To me, that makes the biggest difference. And I just pretty much only turn on my flash when I need to, depending on how the lighting looks, or if just I need a little bit of flash to kind of brighten up one area where we're standing because it's just the way the shadows. It'll help eliminate a lot of those shadows as well.
Okay.
And I would also say, like I said, that Canon has that automatic bounce flash, but you don't need that. You don't need a real expensive flash. You don't need anything more expensive than a Newer or Opteka or something like that. Those are good flashes you can get for like $30 on Amazon, and they do a great job, especially if you get to know your flash, get to know how to set up the power on it, and become familiar with how much power you need for whatever subject it is. Not to overpower it, not to underpower it, but to just get it just right, and just learn how to do that and just experiment. And that's what I would say more than anything is just take your time to experiment.
So now I remember what I was going to ask you guys. It's a sort of a related question. What's your go-to for your editing software?
Lightroom Classic. I do
Lightroom Classic.
almost everything in Lightroom Classic. I've tried Luminar. I have tried. Let me look real quick because I got it on here. Capture One. I've tried Capture One. I've tried Luminar. I've tried several, and the only one that I really like is Lightroom Classic. I don't like the new Lightroom, but Lightroom Classic is awesome.
That was the first one that I came across, and it's the one that YouTube is your friend, obviously. YouTube, a lot of the YouTube videos I watched, they use that Lightroom, and it was just the first one I came across, and I just wanted to see if there was maybe a better option out there. But I like it. I just didn't know if that was sort of the beginner one, or if there was like a more advanced one that you can go to later, or what.
I guess I also use Lightroom. That's one I also use the most of just because it's one of those that it's super easy, super simple. Everything you need is right there. I also do a little bit just off my phone as well, just doing like little tiny touch-ups, but most of the time majority of my photos are on Lightroom.
And I would say if you're looking for something on a budget, it's not as feature rich as Lightroom is, but there's an open source free editing program called Darktable, and Darktable does a pretty good job too. It's real similar to Lightroom, and I would say it's pretty much a clone of Lightroom actually, but if you're looking for something on a budget and you don't want to pay that monthly or annual fee for Lightroom, then that's the way to go.
That's Dark Table.
Yeah, Darktable, DARK table.
Well, I mean, Lightroom's not bad. I think it's like $7.99 a month or $50 to get you the year. It's really not terrible at all price wise.
It was a long time before I switched to the subscription because I had Lightroom 6 and I used it for quite a few years because I didn't want to switch over to the new Lightroom with the subscription every month or every year. I don't like that. Um, so it took me buying a new camera that Lightroom 6 wouldn't recognize the raw files from for me to actually upgrade. I mean, there are a few other programs that I use for different things. Sometimes I do a little bit of touch up in Photoshop, not much, but once in a while I'll jump into that. And the other one that I'll use Star Stacks when I'm doing star trails. So that will allow you to piece together a bunch of time lapse photos so that you don't have to leave your shutter open for an hour to get that star trail, so that you don't have the noise in the picture that you would, because your sensor gets really hot and it gets a lot of noise if you do that. So I use Star Stacks. I use Topaz Denoise AI to denoise my images, and it does better than Lightroom does as far as leaving detail in the picture. Lightroom takes out a lot of detail when you denoise something. The other program I use, it's also completely free, is Fast Stone Photo Resizer. So a lot of publications and things, Facebook, Instagram, they'll limit your size that you can have your pictures. So up to 25 megabytes or something like that. Whereas sometimes I'll take a panorama and have it hundreds of megabytes, and I have to resize that. So I'll use that Fast Stone Photo Resizer, and it does a great job.
Heck yeah. Now, is there such a thing as over editing? Is it, is editing like a sweet spot, or does it make sense what I'm asking? Is it better to just go with your raw photos and just have it out there, or what?
I try to do as much in camera as possible. I try to get everything right as much as possible, just like I was working with film and I didn't have a choice, an option to edit afterwards. And then I try to edit as very little as possible. If it needs some editing, it needs some editing. There's nothing wrong with that, but I try to do it as little as possible.
I think that for me that it sounds kind of silly, but one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is sort of the ethics of photography, as it pertains, especially to street photography. I want to present my pictures. The pictures I take are the things that I see that I want to show the world, and my eyes can't edit anything. You know what I mean? So I'm leaning towards minimal editing. I just didn't know if that is something that is if that touches on an ethical issue, or if that's more of a practical thing or what. But that's just kind of I kind of feeling people out on that.
Well, I think if you over edit, especially using AI, I think there is kind of an ethical thing there where it's not, it becomes something other than the photo you took, and that's not okay. But it goes back to the darkroom days when people were burning and dodging in a dark room, and people had the same thoughts that, hey, this isn't genuine if you do it that way. But it is still art. It is still your creation because you're still the one doing it. As long as it's not AI generated, it's I think it's ethical.
And I guess for me, doing portrait photography, I try my editing style. I don't do the more rich red or like certain warm tones or dark tones because I know some people have their own niche when they do that. For me, I try to keep my photos as natural as possible, whatever that lighting looked like that day or my subject looked like that day. I try to keep it as close as I can to that. Maybe do a little bit here and there if I need to, but I try to keep it as close to the original image that I was taking that day. And a lot of people seem to like more of that natural look versus it being like something that was more of like a red tone based or like a kind of like an orangey tone based or but everybody's got their style and everybody's got a preference, but I like the natural look of it versus it looking like it went through several filters.
And that tends to be the answer, the majority opinion. When I've spoke to other photographers, the idea that if your goal is to capture a moment in time, right, which is what a photograph is, then the less you do to it, the more true to that moment in time you're being. And I like that idea because I can make a computer do anything that if I want to, imagine something, I can make a computer imagine. That's not what I'm after doing. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. I do know there are some photographers out there that well-known photographers, world-class photographers that will really edit the heck out of their stuff. And a lot of times I'll look at it and think, wow, that just doesn't look as good as it could if they didn't do so much editing. And one thing, when I really got serious with photography, I was into HDR. I don't know how familiar you are with HDR, but essentially taking a picture at, say, underexposed by 3 stops, underexposed by 2 stops, underexposed by 1 stop, then the right exposure, then overexposed by 1 stop, overexposed by 2 stops, overexposed by 3 stops, or however far you want to go with it, and blending all those pictures together so that there's really no shadow or anything. It's all just the same tone throughout the photo. And I think those look really over edited now. I never do an HDR anymore. And looking back at my work then, I think, holy cow, I wish I wouldn't have ever published that.
So this is a total novice question, but you're referring to exposure bracketing, right?
Yeah, essentially exposure bracketing and then combining those photos into one.
Oh, I see. I see. Instead of presenting you bracket 3 exposures, instead of having the 3 separate, then you're combining all 3 into one photo. Is that
Right.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to make
Three,
sure I understood what you were talking about.
3 or 10 or 20. You can go as far as
However
you want to
many,
go.
right?
Did either of you have any tips that you wanted to give last minute before we finish up here?
If there's any other people that are like me and you're just getting out there, the only thing that I find that helps is I've had my camera, this camera. I had some film cameras when I was younger. This is my first actual DSLR modern-ish camera. I've had it for like 3 weeks. I've already filled up like an SD card and a half. Just take pictures, dude. If you're new, just take pictures, man. Most of them are going to be trash. Of the probably 10 or 12,000 photos I've taken in the last 3 weeks, I would say 90% of them are just either trash or just nothing special. But man, there's been a few gems that have popped out in there. I have a beautiful one of a yellow trumpet vine with a little bee, and I set my shutter to 1/1000, so that bee just pops right there right there by the yellow trumpet flower. That's one of the ones that stuck out. And I went to uh, I went to the Cheyenne rodeo just a couple of weeks ago, and I got some really great shots. That day at the Cheyenne rodeo of getting, I wish I had a 4x8 or 400x800 lens instead of just my 75x300. I would love to have been able to zoom in more. Just take pictures, man. If you're a novice like me, just take pictures. Don't worry about what they look like so much, except as a tool, as a metric to improve later. You're not going to be Ansel Adams in the first month. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, that's something I would say. Just give yourself time because and give yourself 10 years and then look back at your work and see how much you've improved and give yourself another 10 years and then give yourself another 20 years and just keep on going and keep on learning because you're never going to be perfect. Um, don't get cocky with it. Always understand that there's more to learn.
And I for one, I take some pictures, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I look at some of the pictures I've taken, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I took that picture. It's sort of like the opposite end. Like I sometimes kind of surprise myself with some of the neat pictures I've taken, but that's only by sifting through all the thousands that I've taken that aren't any good. So, it's important to sort of the flip side of that is to kind of let yourself appreciate when you grab a good one. You know what I mean?
And it's a really awesome feeling. Like you said, when you look at a picture and you don't, it's like, did I really take that picture? When you
Yeah.
get it published in a magazine or something like that, and you look at that magazine, pick it up at Walmart or something, and look at the pictures, and it's like, this is just awesome. It's a really good feeling. What about you, Alexis? Do you have any tips or tricks or anything that you want to talk about before we finish up?
I would say that not everything's gonna be perfect. Give yourself a chance to just go out there and find something that you like to do, like your niche. Like I started out with just my mom's phone taking a couple nature photos on a walk and then somehow wound up in portrait photography. But I mean, it all started from just one of my friends needing her senior photos done. And then after the experience and like the high I almost got from it, that carried me to now being a professional portrait photographer. That one thing is that I just know that you appreciate what you're doing and that as long as you enjoy it, you're just continue to enjoy it. Definitely don't feel afraid to go and ask other photographers tips or tricks or like what they do different. There was a couple gals that I hung out with at a couple brandings and only photos taking a couple pictures at brandings. I mean, she came up to me and her and I were the best of friends afterwards because I was even showing her like spots where I'm like, this is a good angle here. This is what I look at, and just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other and getting different ideas. Like you're never gonna stop getting ideas, and just always have an open mind. Everybody does photography different. Everybody has a different eye, but don't also be afraid to explore what other people are looking at and their perspective on things as well.
And my advice would be, and it's kind of a rehash of what we talked about earlier, but since the topic was marketing, I'll say say it again, have some empathy with your customer. So whatever your customer needs, have empathy with them. And as long as you have that, you'll do fine. Where can listeners find your work and take a look and hire you if they'd like?
You can find me on Instagram at Sacred Clown Photography. I'm also on Reddit. I'm expanding my social media base right now. I'm kind of trying to feel out where the most productive venues are. But right now, the main place to find me would be on my Instagram at Sacred Clown Photography.
I'm on Facebook, Piney Ridge Photography. I'm also on Instagram, Piney_Ridge_photography.
And so let me clarify: Sacred _clown_photography. Yeah.
And my work you can find at www.yophotos.us. That's really the best way to get there. And then there's links to my Facebook and Instagram from that. All right, thank you for both being on today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me back on here. I've really enjoyed and learning different perspectives on photography. It's definitely given me a lot more of an insight on stuff that I didn't realize was still out there. I always keep thinking that it's just limited to portrait photography, but trying to expand my knowledge into other forms of photography is really insightful, and I really appreciate it, Jeff.
This was the Rocky Mountain Photography Show. Please visit us online at RockyMountainPhotoshow.com. Thank you for listening and have a great day.